Hey, what's up guys? Today we'll be drawing Ryu from Street Fighters. And in this short video tutorial, I'll be going over the step-by-step on how to create this Ryu drawing from start to finish. Now, if you're just interested in watching the speed draw video, go ahead and click on the info card now. Okay, and also check out the video chapters in the description below to preview all the steps or to skip to the chapter that interests you the most. And if you already love what you see here, the complete drawing, feel free to hit like and subscribe. Now let's take a look at the material we need for this drawing. You're going to need a pencil, an eraser, a medium point black marker, a fine point black marker, and some color pencils. The colors I have here is a peach tin and a brown tin for the skin. I have a yellow brown for the very dark parts, very dark colors on the skin. I have a gray and a black for his outfit, the belt and the hair, eyebrow, and eyes. Last but not least, I have a red and a red brown for the gloves and a headband. Alright, so throughout most of the videos I will be doing speed drawing, so feel free to hit pause whenever you like to keep up with me if you're drawing along. Briefly going over all the steps, we're going to begin by roughing all the basic shapes and forms, the stick figure, form figure, and clove figure, and then refine the rough draft with the detailed line work. After that, we're going to trace a pencil drawing with marker, then erase the pencil drawing, and then color in the highlight, midtone, and shadows. And finally, trace the profile lines with a marker again to complete the drawing. Okay, so let's get started. Alright, so before we start our drawing, let's take a look at the reference picture of Ryu and study the proportion and features and characteristics of this character, okay? And see how that's going to help us. So let's take a look. So we have a human figure here. I were to draw the stick figure on the corner right here, mini version. And then we have the head, I'm drawing across. And then we have torso. Torso is facing that way. I'm going to draw the hip. Okay, then draw the thigh. Okay, this side's going to come out to the knee joint. Come out to the foot, and then this side's going to come out in this direction, and then come down to this foot. So we have shoulder joints right here in front, one in front and one in the back. And this back, I know it's covered by the body, but it actually comes down here, and then to the elbow, comes back out to the fist. And then this other arm will come out to the elbow, and then come down to the fist. Okay, so that's a quick study of the pose and kind of like the proportion. And let's take a look at the lighting. Lighting's coming from upper left down. Okay, that's why we're seeing all the highlights at upper left area of the character, and we have shadow mostly on the bottom right. Okay, so now we did a quick study of the character. Let's start with our rough sketch. We'll be doing stick figuring, then form figuring, and clove figuring. Stick figuring is to reproduce this in the larger scale, and then the form figuring is to thicken up all the stick figure. So now we actually see the anatomy of the character. And then we're going to do clove figuring, which is actually adding all the major pieces of clothing and accessories, or weapon if this character has any. Okay, that will complete our rough sketch step. So let's get to the stick figuring stage. Okay, so here we have the stick figure we're replicating the pose in the original reference picture. So let's just double check. Okay, so we have the head, okay, right here, comes down to the torso, okay, and comes down to the hip. Okay, and then one thigh comes down right here to the knee, and then comes down to the foot. The other leg, thigh, comes out to the knee, comes down to the foot. Okay, with two arms, two shoulder joints, and then this shoulder joint comes down to the elbow joint, and then comes down to the fist. The other fist, the other arm, a lot of it is hidden behind the character, but it's okay, it's going to help us see through the form. Okay, so the shoulder joint I showed you right here comes down to the elbow joint, and then comes out to the fist. Okay, next stage is form figuring. We're going to add in like an anatomy, you know, so even though he has pants, he has like shirts on, but you can still see a lot of the anatomy structure even through the clothing. Okay, so when drawing, always try to see through the shapes. Okay, you're not just drawing something flat. Always imagine you're drawing something that it has dimension, okay, has form to it. Okay, so let's do form figuring. Okay, so this is our clove figuring. See that we now see more of the anatomy and how the proportion of we see the proportion of the character, you know, more clearly. You can definitely see that Capcom proportion of smaller heads and giant, very big, bulky, muscular body. That's kind of like the Capcom style. You know, usually in real life, we're looking at about like a 6-head or 7-head proportion, but Capcom will push it to like 9-head or even 10-head sometimes, depending. You know, it gives the whole character like a more muscular look. Okay, so next step is clove figuring. So in clove figuring stage, we're gonna define all the forms of the clothing, the accessories, weapons, if there's any, and we'll fix some of the form figuring and stick figuring as as well if I see any mistakes. Okay, but I'm gonna definitely like to define the entire rough sketch during the color figuring stage. Okay, so let's start drawing. Okay, so now we have the clove figure drawing. Now, that completes our rough sketch, but we can still work into a lot of details when we get to the details, but what I'm trying to say is the rough sketch is actually the most important step of the entire drawing. Okay, it defines your proportion, it defines your anatomy, defines the pose, defines where the details are going to go in when you start refining it. Okay, so this is a step where you can keep erasing, fixing, repairing anything you don't like, keep going things over and over again until you get all the shapes you like, until you get it to look like the reference picture. Like I said, we're not trying to create our own version of Ryu yet. We're trying to learn from the reference picture. Okay, so we're trying to study its anatomy, its form, its pose, the way it is drawn by Capcom. Okay, so now with the clove figure complete, let's go into refining it. Like I said, if you don't like it, keep drawing. Okay, but if you like it, you think it's ready to go, let's start refining. And then when I start refining, I'm going to start drawing heavier. Notice how I draw very lightly at this step. It's because I don't want to commit to any lines. If I draw too heavily right now, number one, it's going to be hard to erase. Number two, like when I put in the refined details, like the details won't be able to cover up the rough sketch, even if I draw it really hard. Okay, so that's why at this stage, as rough as you can, as blurry as you can, like just trying to figure out all the forms first at this stage. And if the shape and form are right, when you start detailing, it's just going to be a breeze. Okay, so let me show you. Let's start refining the drawing. Okay, see, now that we have a refined drawing, it feels like the rough sketch doesn't even exist anymore. So, now the next step is to trace over the pencil drawing with a marker. Okay, and the trick here is to keep rotating your paper. Okay, to make smoother lines. And remember, you don't have to finish like a very long line with one take. You can break it up into a couple lines, for example, and this line right here for the pants. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, 4 lines create that one small line. It's okay. If you're trying to finish all these lines with one take, most likely a lot of it's going to be off. It's not going to be where you want it to be, and you're just not going to be happy with it. So just remember, it doesn't have to finish all the lines with one take. Okay, you can break it up into smaller lines. Okay? Alright, so before I go on and start tracing, I just want to say, hey, if you enjoyed the tutorial so far, please like and subscribe. It's the biggest appreciation I can get from you guys. Okay? So now let's start tracing. Alright, so there we have like clean up line work. Now remember, when you erase your pencil marks, hold down the paper with your hand, okay? So you're going to make a couple of folds and creases on your paper. Maybe that. Okay? Alright, so now we have a very clean line work to put color in. We're going to talk about the colors. So midtone, most things in real life will have midtone, highlight and shadow, okay? So if we look at our reference picture here, we'll see like midtones are these, and then we have highlights, and then we have shadow. Okay. Now on a white piece of paper, you can overlay colors to make it look darker, but you can't really overlay color to make it look lighter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark off where the highlight areas are, okay, and just color in the rest with midtone. And after I have all the midtones laid in there, I'll come back with the shadow and overlay the shadow on top of the midtone. It'll give me a very nice effect too. Okay. So let's start with the midtone. Okay. I'm usually going to start off with like the smallest area or like the lightest color. So for this, I'm probably going to start with like the red and then go with the skin. And so on. Okay, so alright, let's do this. Okay, so now we have all the midtone in here. Let's take a look at the shadow on our reference. Okay, so the shadow are like the darkest areas in the drawing, and Now after I put in the shadow, it's what's really going to pop out the character. A lot of the areas needs the shadow to define the shape, because in this artist's art style, he doesn't have a lot of line work, even though there's details everywhere. He kind of painted in those details with his shadow. You can see that, okay? So we are actually going to simplify a lot of that. We're not going to go into that detail. We're just going to look at the reference picture and just study from it, okay? So you'll see that when I color in the shadow, I am going to simplify a lot, because number one, this drawing is probably twice as big that's originally drawn. Number two, he probably colored additionally to begin with. That's why he was able to get into all those little details, or he probably spent very, very long hours working on those details, okay? So as a practice, we're not going to go into that much detail, but I'm going to try to get as much as I can in here, okay? So let's go with the shadows. Alright, so see, after I put in the shadow, the whole figure becomes a lot more dimensional, because with your highlight, midtone, and shadow combined, you're able to bring your flat shapes into 3D forms. Okay, so now I know it looks pretty cool already, but the last step is I'm going to trace the profile lines and make the profile lines thicker. So when you have a thicker profile lines, your character is going to be more readable. So all your forms are going to be able to, you're going to be able to read all the forms better. For example, like the body in front of that fist, and so on. Okay, so it's very simple. Let me show you how it's done. Remember, drawing is like playing the piano. You can have the best instructor and the best music sheet in front of you. You might even know the music very well, but it is only through practice that you will be able to get better and become what you want to be. The whole point of my videos is to provide a side-by-side training for you on a daily basis. Like riding a bicycle, I might have to hold your bike for you in the beginning, but just keep drawing, and before you know it, you'll be flying. Okay? We'll see you next time for more exciting drawings. Don't forget to like and subscribe.